Why do I get a big kick out of reading Louis Lamour westerns? Well, actually rereading them. I had read every one of them back in the 70s and 80s. Is it just kind of an enjoyment of nostalgia? You know, the same reason I'll watch an old black and white Honeymooners episode. Or maybe is there something else going on with these books? Like, maybe his books are full of tight, well-plotted storylines, combined with really interesting characters, all put together inside a package of clear, quick-paced writing. And then each of those packages bundled up into very manageable chunks of reading. Jumping to the bottom line in this review, I'm going to say that all that has something to do with it. And plus, I think there's something else. His books aren't trying to jam some moronic 21st century woke message down your throat. Now, take, for example, the book I just finished a little while ago, The Quick and the Dead. Here's the story. A little family from the East is trying to start a new life in the West. The family is the McCaskills. There's the father, Duncan, his wife, Susanna, and they have a son named Tom. I think he's maybe 11 or 12, something like that. Now, what happens is they've just driven their wagon through some little town in the middle of the Arizona territory. Hard to call it a town. They get outside this place, they camp out, and then they find out that a couple of their horses have been stolen. Okay, up comes a stranger to the campsite, and the stranger, of course, is the good guy. His name is Con Valian, and he shows them and helps them in terms of dealing with the gang of the bad guys in the town, getting their horses back. Now, in the language of Westerns, the bad guys are actually a gang of outlaws. There are 8 of them. And they have some pretty good names. Red Heil, Ike Mantle, Doc Shabbat. A couple of them think of themselves as really slick, fast-draw gunslingers. And among them there's an Indian, and this Indian, they call him the Huron. He's an expert tracker and knife fighter. Now, the rest of the gang are all standard low-life Western outlaws. Now, like I said, the story starts out with Valiant helping the McCaskills get their horses back, and then the plot follows the McCaskills trying to find their way west, with Con Valiant helping them get out of some tight spots and teaching them the ABCs of living out west. And if you want to live out there, you got to be able to live on your own, and if you want a safe environment, you got to create it for yourself. Or as Con Valiant puts it, you have to fight for most of the things that are worth having. Or somebody does. Now, the bad guys, they're absolutely relentless in going after the McCaskills. And in the end, Con Valiant, together with the McCaskills, end up putting them away. And that is the basic plot. Now, I got to say, there's a band of Indians who come into play here, and they play a somewhat significant part in the plot. Now, in terms of writing, the way Louis Lamour develops the plot is to keep up absolutely non-stop action. And like he always does, along the way, he throws in vivid descriptions of the natural environment in which the whole story takes place. You see yourself right there. In terms of character development, he makes all the players into 3-dimension human beings. In other words, not all the bad guys are completely bad, and even the bad ones aren't all bad in the exact same way. He gives the Indians fairly respectful, unique treatment, describing their somewhat unique customs. Now, in terms of the good guys, they're good. I mean, the standout, I think, is the mother, Susanna. She's a very strong woman. And Con Valiant is a little mysterious. Let me come back to him. Staying with the McCaskills for a minute, they learn very quickly, and by the end of the book, they're well on their way. Now, Con Valiant, he's kind of a Western superhero. He's a good guy with a gun, as you'd expect. He's maybe, but just maybe, as good a tracker and a knife fighter as the bad guy Indian, the Huron. But in the end, he's ultimately kind of mysterious. You never get very much about his background. Although, at some point, Susanna McCaskill says she thinks that he came from some well-educated parents. But you can't tell that from the story. Now, this book was made into a movie back in the 1980s. I wish I'd seen it, but I haven't. I know it stars Sam Elliott. And I think if I've got some time, I'd track it down and take a look, because I certainly enjoyed this book, and I really like Sam Elliott. So now, all this sounds like a typical Western potboiler. But is there more to it than that? And why is it that in the year 2024, I'm enjoying a book that was written more than 40 years ago that describes a time and a place, all of which took place 100 years before that? Now, I don't think that Louis Lamour was trying to send any kind of message at all. I think he more or less was painting a picture of the West, what the U.S. is, or at least it was. Now, if you want, you can draw a message from that, but you don't have to. His books are fun, just plain fun. You can simply enjoy them. I certainly did. I think if you haven't ever read Louis Lamour, you should give him a try. If you have read him, you might pick him up again. This one is as good a book as any to do it with. That's all I've got for this week.